All right, here we are again. Denny Bucher running for District 7 of Craven County Commissioner. I'm Kim Briel, good friend of Denny's, and we are letting you get to know Denny just a little bit better during this voting season. I have to ask, since last week, have you had some people say, I didn't know that about your dad from last week?
I did have a couple of people say that, yeah. In fact, 3 or 4 people commented about my father and him being the biggest influence in my life.
Yeah, so tonight we're not going to talk so much about history and how you grew up and things like that, but we're going to get into some of the nuts and bolts of the campaign. So the first thing I need to know, and a lot of people out there might also need to know, is what areas of Craven County are in District 7?
A few years ago, the commissioners, I believe, redrew the boundaries, and the current District 7 is a little bit of an unusual line, I guess you would call it. It covers most of the historic district, downtown historic district. It covers about half of the downtown. It covers part of Middle Street. It covers the area where the convention center, where Skysail, and then it covers a large area on the other side of the Trent River. Areas like, people refer to it as Bryce's Creek, which is Bryce's Creek Road running all the way to Jones County. It covers the areas that are in the city on the other side of the river, like Taberna, Carolina Colors, and Bryce's Crossing, and Longleaf, etc. It also covers the Cherry Point Road area, all the way to where Cherry Point Road runs into 70. And it goes down toward Havelock as far as Neuse Harbor, and that would be the end where it stops. So it's a large geographic area, very populated area. There isn't much open space in Township 7, District 7.
Cool. All right, so I live in the city of New Bern, always have. Can you tell me why I have to vote for an alderman and a commissioner?
Yeah, that's confusing to a lot of people. If you live in the city, you have an alderman and you have a commissioner. If you live in an area that's not in the city, James City, Bryce's Creek area, Cherry Point Road area, you're not in the city of New Bern, so you only have a commissioner, okay? They have 2 completely different functions. If you live in the city, at tax time, you get 2 tax bills. One from the city, one from the county. The city tax bill takes care of city services. That's your roads and streets. That would be your fire department. That would be your police department. That would be your public works department, the people that maintain the infrastructure of the city. The county has a completely different function. And even though you're in the city, you still are accountable to the county for things like schools. The county funds the schools. The county funds the sheriff. The county funds the park department in the county. The county funds the health department for the county. It funds the second to schools. The biggest expense the county has is social services.
That doesn't surprise me.
City doesn't do anything in social services. That's all done by the county. The county has animal control, and it goes on and on. So the county has many, many areas that it takes care of, that if you live in the city, you still need these services and these functions.
So you were an alderman.
I was.
And for the city of New Bern, we'll talk about alderman for the city. What were your accomplishments as you look at what you did there?
Well, first of all, I think being an alderman gave me a really good understanding of government. As I said last week, I spent my whole career in the public sector, the private sector, where I was responsible to my superiors for my performance, where I made decisions as a business owner. I saw something had to be done, and I made a decision. I learned that in the government sphere, you don't just make decisions and run with them. You've got to follow certain guidelines. For example, you can't just spend money. You have to get competitive bids on everything. In the case of the city or the county, there are a lot of laws that you must follow. Sunshine law. A lot of people don't realize this, but 3 aldermen cannot get together and have breakfast or lunch and talk. Can't do it. It's against the law. 2 can get together, but 3 can't.
Even though there's other people
doesn't matter.
At the table?
Well, it doesn't matter, because that when it's 3 or more, it's a meeting. Yeah. And the meeting has to be public. Everything we did has to be public, with the exception of legal issues and personnel issues. We could go into private session for those with an attorney. So I learned about what you can and can't do as an alderman. I think accomplishment-wise, while I was an alderman, I led the charge, if you will, to hire Mike Epperson, who I think was the best city manager we've had, certainly in my time here. He was awesome. The other thing, just a simple kind of thing that I learned was, as a business person, I think I was pretty observant of what was going on around me. One of the first things I noticed was that all the cars and trucks in the city were painted a dark gray. So I inquired, this was very early on as an alderman, I inquired the gentleman who was responsible for the fleet. And I said, how is it that our vehicles are all dark gray? I know that's not a color that Ford, Chevy, GM, Chrysler, I know it's not a standard color. And he looked at me and he said, well, when we get a new vehicle in, we take it to a body shop and we have it painted. Brand new vehicle, they take it and they took it to be painted dark gray. And I said, why would we do that? He said, well, we want them all to look the same. And I said, and what does that cost us? Now keep in mind, the city has over 200 vehicles running around out there. $1,000 a vehicle. I got that changed real quick. So those are some of the things, that I learned and that I think I accomplished. We did accomplish a number of other things. We brought on a number of new talented people. The director of guy who's responsible for our growth, who is the business director of responsible for things like inspections and helping businesses that want to establish here. So I think as 4 years, a lot of things I wanted to do I couldn't get done because I was one person, and because of sometimes the difficulty of moving in government. But I did learn a lot, and I think I did accomplish a lot during that 4 years.
Fantastic. What have you done to prepare for this race?
Yeah, when I decided to run for commissioner, I sat down with the county manager and I said, okay, tell me who I should meet with to get a good idea, a good handle on what the county does. I know it has many functions. So he gave me a list. He said, I suggest you meet with the superintendent of schools, because we fund the schools. I suggest you meet with the health department. I suggest you meet with the airport director, because the county owns the airport. I suggest you meet with the fire chief in your district and District 7. I suggest you meet with somebody from the Department of Transportation. We don't run that, but we have to cooperate with them because they do our roads. The carts, those vehicles that people use when they don't have transportation, meet with the person in charge of the carts, the emergency service director, Stanley Kite, and the person in charge of social services. I've met with 4 or 5 of those people. I got delayed because of the hurricane, but I've got scheduled meetings with the 3 that I still have to meet with. And I've learned a lot. I now have a much better idea of what each department within the county is responsible for. County also has many other functions that we can talk about later, but those are the key people that I've met and will meet with before the election that I'll be involved with as a commissioner if and when I'm elected.
So we're going to do this a couple more times before the election. Right now there's 12 more days of early voting. So you want people out early, right?
Yeah, I think the reason for early voting is simple. Something could happen on election day that causes them to say, some emergency came up, I got a sick kid, I got a special problem at work or whatever. I think the smart thing to do is vote, and then it's over with, and you don't have that problem. And there are 4 spots where you can do that, so I think everybody should, if they can, get voting done in advance.
Okay, quickly, the 4 spots in case people don't know.
Vanceboro, Havelock, Cove City, and the main one is downtown at the city, or at the county office building, right downtown on Broad Street.
Perfect. So we would like to invite you to follow the page, share it with your friends. Let's get who this man is out to everybody. At least listen to what he has to say. He obviously has been doing his homework. We've got more questions coming. If you have a question, you can go to electdennybucher.com, B-U-C-H-E-R, electdennybucher.com. His information's there. Email him a question, and we'll try to address that next Thursday at 7 p.m. Thanks for tuning in and listening about Denny Bucher, Craven County Commissioner elect, District 7. And we'll see you next Thursday right back here.